the billionaires of Azeroth. We have races that control the trade, the technology, the industry, and the resource extraction from gold to jewels and even Azeroth. Some are parts of massive kingdoms, while others are half neutral. So, what race is the richest? Brought to you by Gamivo.com. Get the cheapest game time on the market, as well as other Warcraft products. Check out the link in the description below. Money in Warcraft is a very complex thing. There are all sorts of priceless resources on Azeroth. Sure, there are coins and gold just like in the real world, and they are valuable, but Warcraft is a world of magic where you have much bigger forces in the background. You can say Ashara was just incredibly wealthy as she had the Well of Eternity, or the High Elves as they had the Sunwell, but for the sake of this video, let's focus as much as possible on material wealth, coins, or what can easily be turned into funds. Money, just like on Earth, can buy a lot of things on Azeroth. You can pay a private army, you can finance a war campaign, you can invest in technology and pay workers to build you a city or to take a city for you. So currency goes a long way. Now, what race would be the richest? I'm pretty sure as soon as you clicked on this video you had a picture of a goblin in mind, and we'll get to them, but let's first focus on what other races hold wealth. In order to actually build a fortune, you have to either profit from trade or hold resources, while at the same time not having incredible expenses. This bit here is really crucial. For example, Stormwind is an incredibly powerful kingdom, and I'd say probably the wealthiest, but they aren't exactly rich. They have a giant realm to maintain, a big army, and a lot of money to invest in, well, constantly recovering from war. All of this is obvious as Stormwind is able to launch massive campaigns, hold a gigantic army, finance their allies, and build huge powerful ships and planes, and even buy weaponry, but at the same time they were unable to pay the Defiance Brotherhood, and, well, you could see the situation in Westfall. Still, humans hold mines and many other resources, but in the past few decades, they were probably one of the hardest hit races on Azeroth. Almost all human kingdoms were destroyed, and now they're entirely concentrated in the south. Recently there is Koltiras, which was always known as a prime naval power and still was until recently, but they aren't exactly doing that great themselves. First off, they were almost entirely isolated, so it's not like they were utilizing their strategic location and transports for trade, and most importantly, they descended into civil wars and strife, which no doubt bankrupted them. So, while humans are literally the center of the alliance, I wouldn't really say they're the richest due to so much maintenance, and I'm guessing their economy being a war economy for like the past decade or even more decades. In the recent wars, they really took the brunt of all the assaults, and while there may be a few powerful individuals that hold an incredible amount of resources, overall as a race, I wouldn't really say they have all that much, although they're definitely not doing too badly. Now, important to note, some races I would almost entirely wipe off this list due to either so much destruction or just the way their society is shaped. For example, Night Elves. They were never a materialistic society to begin with, and they got their capital city wiped out recently, no doubt inflicting terrible damage. Then there are other elves, all the recent variations and the older ones. I would say before, they might have been one of the most powerful and richest on all of Azeroth. They had essentially controlled all magic, their architecture was incredible and complex, and they had quite a developed nobility caste. However, 90% of their population was wiped out. There is still rebuilding from the damage, and there was constantly wars from that point forth, and I'm guessing there isn't a single elf alive that didn't suffer some form of material damage. Overall, it's just a massive mess for their economical standing. Similar to this, we have the Draenei. They used to be incredibly rich, as was evident on Draenor, a highly developed and sophisticated society, but they also lost so many, and now they just arrived with a spaceship. While they're one of the best jewel crafters in all of Azeroth, and probably the entire universe, they really don't have the capacity to rival other well-established races in numbers, for example the humans that are in the millions. In regards to other races, Dwarven shouldn't really even be mentioned. They lost their entire kingdom, as well as the Tauren. They're just a nomadic spiritual society living in tents. Pandaren are kinda similar to this. Orcs could be put in this bucket as well, and I would place them similar to the humans, but even worse because they were never really a very powerful economical force on Azeroth. Ever since the Horde arrived and ever since the new Horde was established, it has been non-stop war for the orcs, and with all the civil wars and just wars in general, they couldn't have built up much, and most importantly, they were never a materialistic society to begin with, even back on Draenor. So all of this really puts us to quite a few races. Trolls, for example, are quite similar to the Tauren or the Orcs, but the Zandalari are an entirely different story. They're definitely one of the richest kingdoms we had encountered, with a capital made out of just gold. These guys financed gigantic expeditions to multiple continents and had one of the most powerful navies in all of Azeroth as just one faction. However, I'd say they were in a similar spot as Kul Tiras, although I would say in their prime they were probably much richer than Kul Tiras, as after all Zandalari had enslaved goblins to mine for them like thousands of years in the past, and they used to be the most powerful troll tribe out of all of the trolls. At this point though, they spent so much on failed campaigns, they had a civil war, lost their king and almost their entire navy, and probably took the most damage out of all the kingdoms on Azeroth within the past few years. Now, on the other, a bit more positive side, we have the two brother races, the dwarves and the gnomes. I'd say both are wealthy, but they're very unique in their outlook on life. Dwarves control incredible resources as natural miners, and seeing as their entire giant capital is essentially just a mine, they definitely know what they're doing. On top of all of that, there are some of the best craftsmen in all of Azeroth. Dwarven blacksmiths are known worldwide, and I'm pretty sure they don't work for free. So not only are dwarves able to mine the valuable resources, but they're also able to craft something out of them that has a lot of world renown. While they also suffered in previous wars, it wasn't nearly as much as other races. Next to them, we have their neighbors, the gnomes, one of the best, if not the best engineers in all of Azeroth. They are essentially the #1 source for all Alliance technology and machinery, and they built everything from a city to the Deep Run tram. While they suffered a ton in the loss of Gnomergan to the Trogs, I'm pretty sure even with their small numbers, they're still making a ton of money with all the weaponry contracts that they're doing. However, both of these races are Titan creations, and in general, they serve a higher purpose. Dwarves are dedicated to Earth and finding all about their titanic origin and protecting, while gnomes are all about technological progress and science. So, while I'd say they're making a lot of money, they're also most likely not just hoarding it for personal wealth. Nonetheless, these two races are some of the richest in all of Azeroth, as they have the access to resources, the knowledge to turn it into profit, as well as the ability to build incredible infrastructure that would promote trade. So, obviously, this is the point where the goblins come in. There isn't a greedier race than the goblins on all of Azeroth that is also able to act on that greed and to amass wealth. As opposed to a higher purpose with the previous races, goblins really don't care all that much. For them, it is a free-for-all. It is all about coming out on top, even if it means backstabbing anyone. Goblins will sell to everybody, support any cause if it means profit, and while there are more noble individuals among them, those are definitely rare. Goblins also focus on industrialization, which produces machines that would enable them to gather even more wealth. This would be like the perfect ground for a billionaire, a character that would amass a personal fortune. A great example is Jaster Gelibix, that until he defected recently was most likely the richest person in all of Azeroth. He enslaved his own people after taking their life savings, and ultimately killed like half of the Horde's economy, building a giant villa with an even more gigantic carving of his face right next to Orgrimmar. Now, of course, this doesn't mean that all goblins are billionaires, as after all, most of these workers for the trade princes are goblins, but in general, as a race, they are the wealthiest. Just with the Horde, they hold all the banks, the industry, the transportation, and almost all technology. Goblins created the Iron Horde and were behind any major power recently, signaling their significance. Certainly, not all goblins are with the Horde, which is why they're actually so rich. In fact, I'd say probably goblins goblins lost more money when they joined the faction as opposed to when they were neutral and they were just selling to both sides. So while goblins are not really smarter than the gnomes, for example, or even more intelligent than some races, their society is all about capital and making as much money as possible. This alone is the reason why I would say the goblins are the wealthiest of all the races on Azeroth, although the dwarves and the gnomes could nearly match them. Thank you for watching. Check out Can Demon Hunter still be created by clicking on the screen, and also check out the second channel for videos on real world history and science. See you next time.